Being forced to walk down the aisle in lieu of my sister was the last thing I had expected. They gave me to him, like I was irrelevant. Made me his bride, like I were a mere item that could be easily discarded. I suppose by now I ought to be accustomed to it. I was never the preferred child, but rather a pawn in their absurd games. He was renowned for his brutality. His power and influence were well known among the tribes. He was someone to be feared. A man whose bare presence was enough to send you flying in the other direction. A man not to be dared with, a man whose fierceness at war was known. They called him Regul Ekral, the god of war. He is, after all, the king above all kings. The king of the niches. My eyes peeled open, and I squinted due to the sun's rays sipping through the window. The cold air nipped at my bare skin, leaving goosebumps as I pushed the thick quilt down my body, sitting up on the bed. A light knock rang through the door, and a soft voice spoke. "Milady, are you awake?" "You are free to come in, Gala." The doorknob twisted, and the door was pushed open as Gala walked in with a bright smile on her face. "You are up more than usual, milady?" Gala asked, walking over to the bathing chamber. "I don't know, Gala. I have been having this feeling in the pit of my stomach. I don't know what it is. It feels like a calm before the storm," I mentioned, getting out of bed to go take a seat by the window. Gala stuck her head out of the door of the bathing chamber with a worried look on her face. "It's understandable to feel worried, after all, we are in the middle of a war," she stated, going back to the bathing chamber. I bit down on my lips, looking out at the window, and visibly calmed down when I saw the colorful flowers blooming in the garden, with the sunlight enhancing their beauty. This was one of my favorite views each day, to sit by the window, watching the flowers bloom. I stared down at the beautiful roses, bluebells, and lilies. My eyes shifted to the blue iris. It was one of the flowers that always caught my attention. "I see you are admiring the view of the garden again, milady." I turned toward Gala with a smile on my face. They always manage to alleviate my emotions. "As much as I would like milady to keep admiring the flowers, I need to get you ready. The king has requested your presence at the table for breakfast today." I got completely still, looking at Gala like she had grown another pair of heads. Anyone outside of the palace would wonder why I, a princess, would react this way about having dinner with the king and queen when I was their daughter. It was unusual for me and everyone else who works in the palace for me to be summoned to the royal dining room for breakfast with the rest of the family. I had two elder siblings, my older brother, Prince Devlin, who is the crown prince, and my sister Katrona, the apple of my parents' eyes. She possesses every quality I didn't have: beauty, grace, and elegance. Leaving a trail of broken hearts behind her, men from around the world come to witness her beauty. The king and queen held nothing back when it came to showering her with love. They spoiled her rotten, giving her everything she demanded. Sighing, I turned to look at Gala, giving her a weak smile before walking into the bathing chamber. Gala stood behind me, helping me get rid of my nightwear. I walked over to the bathtubs, getting in on it. The marvelous scent engulfed me, causing me to sigh in contentment, and my body visibly relaxed at the feel of the water against my skin. I kept my eyes closed, resting my back against the wall of the tub, wanting to have this peaceful moment before encountering the king and queen. The feeling of cold liquid being poured on my hair, as delicate fingers combed their way through my thick white curls. I hummed as Gala worked the knot and grime from my hair. "Why do you think the king summoned you today? They hardly ever have time for you," Gala asked in a distasteful voice. "I wish I knew, Gal. I'm as confused as you are. I wish they would treat you better. You are their daughter, after all." "I'm done wishing, Gal. I have had too much heartbreak to care now. I had to learn the hard way that I was the daughter they never wanted." Surprisingly, my voice held nothing but numbness. I guess I meant every word I said. I was exhausted from trying desperately to win their love. It was futile. "That doesn't mean milady turns out not to be loved. I knew for a fact that Lady Flavia loved you like her own before she passed away, and so do I. I intend to be with you every step of the way, milady." Her words warmed my heart, and I was touched by her loyalty toward me. Don't you want a life outside the palace? Find someone you love and spend your life with that person as you make memories and family together. Gala, used to me asking her questions like this, responded immediately. I won't mind giving up my life to serve by your side, milady. Her words held sincerity. I really appreciate your loyalty, Gal, I really do. But I would rather you not spend your life with me, but enjoy it to the fullest. Instead of staying locked up here with me. This is something I'm honored to do. You once told me you considered me a sister, and I feel the same about you, Princess Letitia. Thank you, Gal. I said to her, my voice barely a whisper as I held back the tears threatening to fall from my eyes. I haven't done anything to earn her loyalty, yet here she was, ready to give away the rest of her life just to stay beside me. Sliding down into the tub, I let my body sink, washing the soap off my hair before sliding back up. I rubbed my hands along my face as I emerged from the tub, and immediately the cool air heated my skin, causing me to shiver in response. Gala hurriedly took out the robe, wrapping it around my skin. She guided me right back to the bedroom, ushering me towards the seat. She picked up the comb from the table, gently brushing through my curls while applying different oils and ornaments. I had better hurry to get you ready, breakfast with the king is in an hour. She mutters, walking towards my closet to pick out the dress for the day. You are late, was the first thing my mother, Queen Afra, said as I walked through the door of the royal diner. It's no surprise that her first words after not seeing me for a month would be about my tardiness. She's just a minute late, Mother. My brother, Prince Devlin, gave me a warm smile, waving his hand for me to walk in further. Prince Devlin and I aren't close like a brother and sister should be, but he always stood up to our parents in my stead anytime I was being treated unfairly, and that was more than enough for me to know that a tiny place in his heart cared about me. It still doesn't matter. My mother says it again, looking at me with cold eyes. You are a princess, Letitia. I expect you know better than to keep your father, the king, and the rest of the family waiting. I cast my eyes down, bowing my head. I apologize, Your Majesty, my queen. Let's not start a dispute this early, Afra. My father, the king, spoke in a low voice filled with warmth to my mother, while not giving me much as a glance. I sighed, raising my head, and watched as my father said something, and the four of them laughed. I can do this. I can do this. Be invincible like you have always been. Have your breakfast and go back to living your life. I chant to myself, taking the first step. I walked over to a seat pulled out by one of the maids. Breakfast was served, and we carried on eating in silence. Well, I carried on eating in silence, while the rest of the family chatted among themselves. Devlin had tried bringing me into the conversation, but I knew better than to show my interest and just carried on eating. My father cleared his throat, gaining the attention of everyone, including mine. Now that we have had breakfast, I think it's time to discuss the matter at hand. He says, putting on a face I couldn't read. I'm certain you are all aware of the fact that the Hayatia are trying to start a war with our kingdom. I'm well aware of that, Father. My brother answers with an agitated look. We haven't had a problem with them for a long time, so their reason for starting a war is still baffling to me. What do they hope to gain from it? Rumor has it that the current king of Hayatia has fallen sick with a terrible illness, and that his younger brother, Prince Oren, will be ruling as regent. From what little I do know about the prince, he is greedy about conquering and ruling as many kingdoms as possible and has been successful enough to take over the 5 neighboring kingdoms in the span of a week. What are we going to do about it, Leandros? We are clearly no match for the Hayatia soldiers. Our soldiers might be strong and all, but we are still no match and outnumbered. My mother asked in a worried voice, her brows furrowed together. That was the reason I gathered you all here today. It's true, we are no match for the Hayatia soldiers, but that doesn't mean they can't be defeated. What do you mean by that, Father? Prince Devlin asked. What other way can they be defeated? The Hayatia may have an increased amount of strength than we Hades, but you fail to remember that they aren't the strongest kingdom among the 15 tribes around the world. The strongest. Of course the Hayatia weren't the strongest, I thought to myself, wondering where my father was heading to. Anyone with a perfect understanding of our history would know of the Nisha. The tribe was deemed the strongest, most ruthless, and most powerful of the 15 tribes. My eyes widened as I repeated my father's words in my head, and I turned to look at him in shock. I wasn't the only one with a shocked expression on my face as the rest of the family looked at their king with equal expression. "You can't really be serious about asking the Nisha for help, Your Majesty," my mother asked in a low voice, trying to keep the quiver in her voice. I understand the reason for her terrified state, I was too. There wasn't a person who heard about the Nisha without shaking their wits out. They weren't the type of people to cross paths with. Making a deal with them was like signing a suicide note. You never know when things could go south, leaving you at a loss. There is no other option, my queen. The Nisha are the only way to stop the Hayatia from waging war with our kingdom. I reached out to them earlier this week, and they agreed to help. They did? Prince Devlin asked, surprised. Yet again, I mirrored everyone's expression. That's so unlike them. They would never do anything out of character without gaining. He looked up at our father with a raised brow. What do they want from us? They want a union between the two families. King Sviatoslavic has asked to make Katrona his wife as a token for rendering help to us. You can't be serious, father, Katrona yells, finally speaking after bluntly ignoring my existence, banging a hand on the table with a huge glare on her face. You don't expect me to marry into that savage kingdom. I won't survive a day there. You know, the rumor that flows about King Sviatoslavic bursting into tears? Oh, my darling, it's okay. Don't cry. My mother cooed, getting up to hug her. We can't hand over Katrona to him. I'm sure there are other alternatives. Mother is right, father. We can't let Katrona get married to King Sviatoslavic. We need to come up with a way to prevent this from happening and at the same time get their help in fighting the Hayatia. I have sent for the Council of Elders. We are going to discuss more about this in today's gathering. I expect you to be there, Devlin. I will, father. The king nods, getting up to his feet as he walks out of the room with my brother beside him, followed by my mother and sister, who yet again ignored my existence. Leaving me alone in the dining hall, I pondered about why the king of Nisha would want to get married to a woman from our kingdom and not his. There was no denying that he must have heard about Katrona's beauty and would want to acquire her for himself. He was, after all, a man. I rose to my feet and walked out of the hallway to find Gala waiting for me by the door. We both walked back to my room in silence as I thought of how my father and the elders intended to overcome this situation. I walked over to the window, taking a seat beside it to stare at the garden. My mind drifts to so many ways this could go wrong and blow up in our faces. Milady, what seems to trouble you? Gala asked, taking me out of my thoughts. There has been a marriage union between our kingdom and that of the Nisha. It was dead silence with no words from Gala that I was beginning to think she didn't hear me. I turned to look at her and found her standing there, behind me, shaking in fear. Why do you look so terrified? I joked, hoping to ease the fear. Why aren't you? She questioned, her voice quivering. I chuckled bitterly, turning my attention back to the garden. You don't have to be frightened for me, Gal. I'm not the one he requested to marry. You aren't? She asked, her voice sounding unsure. No, I'm not. I answered, staring at the blue iris. Father had told us that King Sviatoslavic had explicitly asked to make Katrona his wife. There is no way the king and queen would allow Princess Katrona to marry into that malevolent kingdom. My father and Prince Devlin are with the Council of Elders, trying to find a way through this exigency. I don't know if this makes me a bad person, but I'm glad he asked for Princess Katrona's and not you, milady. Gal, I whispered a yell, ushering her to keep her mouth shut. My father would have your head if he heard you. I'm sorry, madam, that was so insensitive of me. I sighed, getting to my feet. I climbed into the large, warm bed, taking a deep breath. Can we not talk about the matter anymore? I would like to get some rest. Yes, milady. Gala bowed slightly, leaving the room. I really hope whatever plan they come up with truly works. The last thing this kingdom needed was to start a war with another tribe, and it was one we could never win. Not against the Nisha. I rolled to the side, unwilling to get up. The ray of the afternoon brusque light hit my face, causing me to dig my head over into the pillow. I felt a hand on my body, shaking me awake, and I groaned, mumbling out incoherent words. I'm wondering why Gala won't let me be, as I struggled to hold on to the bit of sleep in my eyes. Letitia, you need to get up. A very familiar voice said, but it wasn't Gala. My eyes snapped open in disbelief, and I hurriedly got up from the bed, fixing my disheveled state. Mother, this is undoubtedly a surprise, I said, bowing slightly. I didn't mean to startle you, my dear. She responded with a smile on her face. I stood rooted in my spot, wondering what was going on. This was out of character, and to top it all, she was sitting there on my bed, smiling warmly at me. Why? She must have noticed the appalled look on my face. Sighing, she got up to her feet, taking hold of both my hands. The maids will be here any minute to get you ready. I presume you haven't forgotten that King Sviatoslavic is coming today. It had been a month since the news of the Nisha king's intention of making Katrona his wife. My father and brother have been hosting a meeting for days, trying to come up with a loophole to stop their marriage. But no one had told me what the conclusion of the matter was or how they intended to avoid such an ordeal without breaking the pact made by our kingdom and the Nisha. Seeing as the wedding was still taking place, I can only assume that their plan didn't work. You don't have to worry about me, Mother. Gala should be here any moment now. I think it's best if you stay with Katrona. I'm sure she must be scared witless at the thought of getting married. That won't be necessary. I have sent maids to attend to her, and Gala won't be attending to you today. My brows furrowed at her words. Why is that, Your Highness? She has been assigned to help with the planning of the royal wedding. She said, enough with the blather. When the maids walk in, I want you to do everything they ask you to without any questions. Am I clear, Letitia? Yes, Mother. I answered, unsure of what she meant. Something wasn't right. Not with the way she was behaving or the fact that Gala was put in charge of planning the wedding without her informing me a day before. I stared at the retreating back of my mother as she walked out of the room without so much as glancing back at me. The maids walked in and began their task. Slipping out of my nightwear, I stripped off my undergarments before settling into the warm water that was already filled in the large wooden tub. Freshly crushed rose petals, lilies, and some lavender were added to my water before assaulting my hair with some honey-scented oil. After the maid helped me with my bath, I got out of the tub with a robe wrapped around my body, covering my modesty. We walked out of the bathing chamber, and I was put in a chair in front of the vanity, my reflection staring back at me through the mirror. My skin looked radiant and was glowing more than ever. My white hair was curled at the bottom, the wetness still evident. Through the mirror, I looked behind me to see a maid standing there, doing my hair. She tied it up in an awfully tight bun while another stood in front of me, working on my face, roughing my lips and powdering my face. The rest of the maids rushed around me, choosing the pair of jewels I would be wearing with my dress, with me seated still. Why were they giving me too much attention? Katrona was the one getting married today, and yet here I was getting prepped. I could never understand what goes through the head of my mother, sometimes. She had never cared about what I wore as long as it was pleasant and wasn't a stain on the royal name. Nearly 2 hours later, the maids were done getting me ready. The maid in front of me moved away from the mirror, and I looked in awe at the person in front of me. Permit me to say, milady, but you look charming. A maid behind me gushes, while the rest gasp silently. Thank you, I said, my voice barely a whisper. I continued to look in the mirror, not believing that it was me staring back at myself. I never thought myself this beautiful. My hair was gracefully made and braided back into a tight woven braid before being tied up in a bun, making me look a bit mature with my face expertly painted. My hair was coated with pins and precious gems securing the bun in place. My natural plum pink lips were looking red and inviting. A little kohl was put around my eyes, enhancing the hazel color of my eyes. Turning my head to the side, I noticed the beautiful long dangling earrings locked to my ear. I clenched my fist tightly to see if I wasn't still dreaming. I never thought I would look this beautiful and gracious. Never. I fought back the smile on my face as my eyes trailed to my neck, causing a confused look to spread across my face. What was going on? Why was the royal necklace on my neck? This should only be given to every daughter of every generation in the royal family on her wedding day. But why was it on my neck and not on Kaytrona? The realization hit me. I was the pawn. The pawn for Kaytrona. They were going to marry me off to him in her stead.